Today's guest is building a business and a life most people only dream about. In this episode, our guest breaks down what it really takes to step outside of your comfort zone, how to stay there when things get uncomfortable, and how to build a business and life that actually align. Our guest is the CEO of a continuing education company, Lawline, which has delivered more than 5 million courses to 150,000 attorneys. But what really stands out is the culture he's built, one that actually empowers people to grow, take risks, and think bigger. He's also a TEDx speaker and someone who truly practices what he preaches, whether that's scaling a company, running marathons, or moving his entire family to Spain for 2 years, which he documents in his latest book, 11 Suitcases. So if you've ever felt that there's more out there for you, this one's going to push you to get there.
Hey everyone, welcome to Business Unchained, where entrepreneurs and business owners come together to power up on their journey to greatness. My name is Bobby Mascia, owner of many businesses, including my passion, a wealth management firm that specializes in helping entrepreneurs. My life totally changed when I made a conscious decision to design my businesses to run themselves, not me and my time. If you're looking to get unchained from your business, make more money, and have more time, listen to the experiences of other successful entrepreneurs here on Business Unchained.
Bobby Mascia is the founder and CEO of Greenridge Wealth Planning. All opinions expressed by Bobby and his guests are solely their own and do not reflect the opinion of Greenridge Wealth Planning. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon for any financial decisions. Clients of Greenridge Wealth Planning may maintain positions in any securities discussed in this podcast. Please welcome David Schnurman.
I just released my second book called 11 Suitcases. And it's an amazing journey of moving to Barcelona for 2 years with my family. And the book became a bestseller on Amazon. And it's the story of why we went, what happened when we were there, and how we transformed as a result. I also just love this shit.
That's actually what I want to talk about the most. I'm super pumped to peel back the layers of the onion here, because there's a lot of different things that we can talk about. And I would basically say I'm lying if I didn't tell you that 5 out of the 7 days a week, I think about, man, what would it feel like to uproot myself and my family and go to Europe? But, you wrote a book, 11 Suitcases, right? Because all you needed was 11 suitcases to get out of the US and go to Spain.
When I moved to Barcelona, I have twins. So my twins were 10 years old, boy-girl twins, and my youngest was 5. So we were, I think, to your point, in high school, my kids it's past the point. They have their friend group. They're not going to want to move. So I get why your kids are like, nah, I'm good. So at that stage, the reason it worked out for us was the twins were already changing schools from elementary school to middle school. So all their friends were separating. So that was the timing. So that was the logistics of it. But
yeah, I want to know what the catalyst was for this too.
It started back in 2015. So that's when we had 3 kids, 6 and under. And 3 kids, 6 and under, we were struggling with bedtime routine. We were struggling with morning routine, pretty much everything else in between. And, we were loving it, obviously, but it was a lot. And I started asking friends for ideas or resources to help us with parenting. And somebody recommended this book called 3 Big Questions for a Frantic Family. It's written by Patrick Lencioni, who also wrote 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. He has 4 children. And what I loved about the book, it took everything that me and you focus on in business, mission, values, priority, core values, and other things like that, and it applied it to your family. And I never thought to do that before. And my wife's normally not into those things, but we were both desperate to figure things out. Mm-hmm. And one of the questions it had you answer was, what was unique about your family? And in essence, where do you see yourselves, in 10 years from now? Mm-hmm. And the reason that's interesting to me, we were just struggling putting our kids to bed. And this, in order to help put your kids to bed, you need to have a vision for the future, right? To get you through it. And we wrote down being positive, being healthy. But the one thing I put on there was travel, because that's something I loved, me and my wife loved. And so we turned it had us turn into a paragraph that said this, and this, and we want to experience life through travel. This is 2015. So I'll pause there for a second. But the lesson, before I get into how that turned into 11 Suitcases, time and time again, I'm sure you've seen it in your life. When you write something down from what's in your mind and you put it in writing, it's more likely to turn into something than when you just talk it out. And this was a great example. That experience life through travel has a very clear, direct correlation that we can discuss to us packing 11 suitcases. It's not even abstract. It's 100% direct from that sentence.
Yeah, I think writing it down gives you a little bit more focus, a little more clarity in terms of, you have it down on paper and you're not getting distracted by all the other things. You can reflect back to it. I also tend to tell people because I know once I tell people, I have to fulfill that obligation.
Bingo. So, you Think and Grow Rich, the success principles, the secret. One of the things it says, if you want what to happen to you, you need to put it out in the world. So I started telling everybody about this, thing that I want to do is experience life through travel. It meant nothing. And I told the right person, he's like, well, if you really want to do that, this guy, David Rich, just came back from living in Barcelona for a year with his family, talk to him. So he told me about it.
Do you and your wife speak a second language at all? Or was this going to be going into a new country, new language and trying to figure it out?
Yeah, pretty much trying to figure it out. My wife lived in Sevilla when she was in college for a semester, but very basic. So it was about learning a new language, learning a new culture. And he started telling me about it. And like in 2015, with 3 kids, 6 and under, it was like a pipe dream. I'm like, I don't want to waste your time. Like, I don't think it's going to happen. But over the next 4 years, we spoke probably a dozen times or more, and we became good friends. And then eventually at 2019, I was, dare I say, going through a midlife rut where, I don't know, I was like hitting that 12-year itch of my business. And I'm like, what's going on? I'm doing the same routine every single day. I just felt like I needed to push myself out of my comfort zone. Hence the first book. Yeah, go ahead.
And your business, Lawline, is a CE firm for attorneys, right?
Correct. We're the largest.
I want to understand a little bit about you 12 years into your business and you're going to make this move. What's the preparation that you're doing for the business as well?
Yeah. So 2019, COVID hadn't happened yet. So remote work was a thing, but not the thing.
Yeah.
So we already were doing work from home Wednesday. So we already had the infrastructure for everybody working remote at least one day a week. We had one employee who had already moved to Buffalo. We were all in New York City. So we had an office. So yeah, it was definitely a risk. I use the scaling up framework. It's similar to EOS, Entrepreneur's Operating System. I set myself up. There's a book you're probably familiar with, Rocket Fuel, which is part of EOS. I'm the visionary, a COO who, ran the day-to-day of the business. So it certainly was a challenge and it was a risk, but I knew, to your point where you are today, if we didn't do it at that moment, I have to wait till I'm 65, or at least in my late 50s. It was really about my kids. It was about us, but it was about giving them this whole new view on the world and experiencing a different culture and spending more time with them. So
that's finally hit the go button. What were some of the things that you and your wife spoke about prior to being like, yeah, you know what? We're in, we're doing it, we're going.
This is the best part about it. It was a lot of little yeses that got us to get there. The first little one was when we had to apply to other public schools or private schools in 2019. My wife's like, why don't we just apply to that school in Barcelona where David Rich and his kids went to, just to see if they get in? And they got in within 2 months. And then we're like, okay, well, why don't we just start the visa application process? Because I heard it's really challenging. So we started that. And then we're like, oh, why don't we hire the same person who helped Dave Rich move to help us, get all the stuff we need there. Oh, the final thing was, why don't we tell people we're already going, even though we haven't made the decision, to give us more, especially our parents. And then once we tell people and they say that, I'm like, oh, the world didn't fall apart. I guess we should do this. The final little yes was my wife and I went to Barcelona in May. We found an apartment. We put money down on the lease and we knew it was happening for sure. That's what happened. And then in August, we're packing the suitcases and everything went wrong. We literally had to buy 4 suitcases the day we were leaving. We had a leak from our ceiling that the plumber was literally breaking a hole in our ceiling the day we were leaving. Just there's no simple things. So, but I think that was a good sort of starting point, that it's not all sunshine and rainbows, even if you're going to a beautiful place. If it's hard raising kids in your current environment, going 6,000 miles away doesn't make it easier. Makes it a little bit more fulfilling though. It's just for me at least. But so yeah, that's how we ended up
So
doing it.
what did you do with all your stuff?
So we have two things. We had tenants come in. We got really lucky that the tenants they were looking to buy a place or get a new place on their own. We kept 90% of our furniture in the apartment.
Oh, wow.
So, and from the 11 suitcases, we have a very big basement. Anything we didn't bring, we put in the basement. Guess what happened when we came back from Barcelona? We pretty much gave all of that away. Because if we don't need that stuff for 2 years, we really don't need it at all. That was an interesting sort of thing that maybe everybody should put their life in 11 suitcases, see what they don't need, and then just get rid of it.
So I can only imagine how that just changed your view on life, your perspective on things. Talk to me a little bit about that, getting over there, the changes that you guys had to make, some of the things that were a little bit harder, some of the things that were a little bit more refreshing. I wouldn't say easier, but as you started to go through it, you're like, you know what, this is actually really nice.
Yeah. First thing I'll say is being an expat, you feel like it's an adult summer camp because you're surrounded by other expats and everybody's there to meet new people. When you're in your mid 40s, you feel like you have all the friends you're going to have, for the rest of your life to some degree, because it's hard to meet new friends. Within 2 months, we had 30 new couple friends who are still some of our close friends today. And that to me was like eye-opening because
all expats.
I'd say, mostly expats. Yeah. Not just from the US, all international. But to me, that was eye-opening because it's just a wake-up call to anybody. You don't have to move to Barcelona to create new friends with like-minded core values. Mm-hmm. And sometimes we get stuck and be like, oh man, I don't feel like I relate to anybody around me anymore or something like that. So you just have to find that group that works for you. That was one. Number two, I actually started blogging and writing on social media, mostly for friends and family, what we were doing every day. Mm-hmm. And people that I didn't even know started following me. One guy was this Olympic kayaker who won the Olympics in 1992 in Barcelona, he's from the US. He ended up living there. He met me for lunch to tell me that, when people are younger, they're like on a kayak on a wide river, they can turn in any direction they want. They can go as fast as they want. As they get older into midlife, like where we are, they feel like they're this cargo ship on a tiny river and they're stuck on that course for the rest of their life. And he said, what you guys did, you guys turned your ship. You moved in a different direction. And goes, and that's rare. You need to keep brave. It's rare. It's exciting. You need to keep writing this so other people are inspired that they can turn their ship. And that's why I wrote the book, by the way. I thought I was going to write it that year, but I am obsessed with helping people to inspire and empower people to live their life to their fullest in so many different ways. This one is geared to our parents with young families, but it could be to anybody. And why? Because I'm obsessed with that for myself. So there's more, but I'll stop there.
Why do you think it is that you're so driven to inspire people? Is there something that happened to you? Is there something in your life, in your background? Is there some viewpoint that you have on life? Like, what do you think is at the core of you really wanting to help people?
I've taken a lot of strength finders and core values and Myers-Briggs and anagram tests, and they all essentially say the same thing. I am a growth learner. I need to absorb information, use that information to understand what's going on around me, and then excel from that or share that. And I think some of us, you've seen the movie Matrix, I assume. So we all have our different roles in life. Me and you both do podcasts. I assume we both wrote books. We're in the role in our life where when we get information that is valuable to us, we have to share it with other people. There's something inside of me that I can't turn it off if I wanted to. And so that's my obsession and passion to push
that
out.
Right?
It's so weird. And I thought everybody had that. I thought this was what everybody felt until I realized it wasn't. It's actually a small percentage. And that's why I run an education business. So I don't know what it is, but my biggest challenge, I would say, and as I get older, I'm getting wiser and I'm respecting this is the impact that I'm having that I don't even realize. But I want to have a bigger platform. right? The bigger the platform, the more our impact. I don't know if that's ego or something else, but that's
I'm sure
where
it's a nice little cocktail of a few different things.
Yeah. But that's where I would almost feel like I'm not living to my potential to some degree, where, we're at the stage where like the vice president of the United States is 5 years younger than you, 6 years younger than me. Like people in power, for our whole life, they were always older than us. Now they're younger than us. And you're just, it's weird, I guess, to some degree. But I'm with that said, I try to practice gratitude. I do practice gratitude. I couldn't be happier with my family, with my life, with my business. And I think this drive to want to learn and share will keep me and you busy until the day that we die, hopefully, God willing, a very long time from now. So that is, I think, one positive to that.
Yeah, I always say, like, as long as I'm having fun with it, it's good. Once it starts turning into this chore where it's how do we monetize it? How do we do this? How do we do that? It becomes a little bit too much. And then it takes away some of the essence of just like, I just want to do it.
It's a great point.
I got to pull you back to Spain. You guys land, you have your 11 suitcases, and you already have a spot that you're going to. You get there, you unpack. Now what?
Okay, we unpack, and we're not even unpacked. We're half unpacked. And school hadn't started yet. And it was like a Wednesday. And my wife goes, we're going to Sitges on Friday, which is about a half hour south of Spain, because we made a commitment that we were going there to travel. We were going there to experience things. School hadn't started yet. She was ready to go. I was too, but I'm like, we haven't even unpacked yet. Like, we haven't settled down. We're still jet lagged. She's like, we're going. So that Friday, like, we took a train. We got off the train. There was no taxis. Our hotel was 40 minutes away. It was hot out. We're dragging these bags, and we're taking the kids. And I'm just like, why do we always push our luck? Like, the kids are like screaming and crying. We have a 5-year-old. Then we turn the corner. We're on the ocean. We get to the hotel. We have a corner room, all glass, looking at the ocean. And I'm just like, my wife is always right. Like, she is really the one who pushes and continues to do it. And I'm so lucky to have that. And then that night, we're on the beach barefoot. There's fireworks because there's some sort of festival going on, eating at 11 o'clock at night. The kids are building sandcastles and having fun. And I'm just thinking, like, we just took a 25-minute train ride to get here, where in the past to do this, we would have to fly 7.5 hours over the Atlantic to get here. And I'm like, I guess this is the new normal. So that was how it started.
It's funny because first thing I thought of was when we were in Italy, we were in Portofino and taking a train to Cinque Terre. And for me, I was at the point of the trip. It was toward the latter half of a 2-week trip. And I'm like, can't we just relax and see what there's some things that we could do around here. We could just grab a bite, maybe jump into the water. And she's like, no, we're going to Cinque Terre. We're going now. And I'm like, oh, Jesus. But to your point, like, we ended up getting on the train. We take this quick train, 30 minutes or so. We get out, we walk through a tunnel, and then all of a sudden, there we are. And, again, same thing. My wife, if it weren't for her pushing the button, let's go.
By the way, I make it like the book is a memoir written in present tense, and I don't sugarcoat it. I give her as much props as I can, and I don't. Even though I'm the one who wrote the book and I'm the one on the podcast, like, to have that partner, and we complimented each other as well. Like, we both had our back and forth. But there were so many times we were like, one example was we had a trip booked to Paris the night before. All of Paris goes on strike, right? So everything was canceled. So I was going to the US the week later. I'm like, okay, let's just stay local. And she's like, once again, we made a commitment. We came here to travel. We're not staying local. The next day, we were on a flight to Lisbon to go there. When we get to the airport, on the sign where it says the gates and the flights, above at 12:15 was the flight that was canceled to Paris. At 12:15, right below it, the line below it was the flight to Lisbon. And to me, that was a sign. Like, you see, you made the right decision. You got to keep pushing forward. And then we had all these amazing memories from Lisbon. So 100%.
So when you get there and you've got to figure out, I want to get some of the pain points, right? Because they couldn't have been that easy. Like just travel, just get on the plane, just get on a train. There's got to be some logistical change, like complete differences from being in Brooklyn to going over and being in Spain. And what were the hardest things, or what you would have perceived to be the harder things to adapt to that actually weren't that big of a deal?
I'll be honest. I felt a little bit of imposter syndrome, like after we arrived, because we started meeting all these people who have traveled. This was their fourth country they've lived in, and they've done this or they've done that, or they just seemed like, I'm a Brooklyn guy, and they just seemed like they fit in so much well, and they had a bigger friend group already, and they were doing all their things. And everything changed for me. Maybe about a month in, we went to a barbecue for new parents at my kid's school. And the dean gave this speech, and I felt like he was talking directly to me. And he goes, this year, you're going to be invited to different WhatsApp groups, to maybe book clubs that read in Spanish, to hikes that you feel that are too intense. You're going to trips to cities you can't pronounce. You might be tired. You might feel like it's not for you. You might want to just stay home and order takeout, but you have one job. Your one job this year is to say yes, because that's how you experience the mess and the magic of it all. And for me, that really helped, because I already felt myself within the first month getting into my Brooklyn cocoon, where I was like, just ready to like, just be in my comfort zone there and not like sort of go out. And so the day after that speech, like there was like a tour for new parents at the museums, and I went on it, and we ended up meeting some of our best friends. And then there was an opportunity to like join this forum of expat entrepreneurs. And I said yes. And then those are literally some of my best friends. By the way, I almost named the book The Year We Said Yes. And then I learned Shonda Rhimes has a book called The Year of Yes. So I was like, maybe that...
She ruined it for you.
Well, it's actually better because it wasn't that, but it was... I will say this. It was a little bit... this sums it up to answer your question about how did my kids adapt, right? And about 2 months in, or a little less.
That was my next question of life with the kids there. And then when you got back, how did that work with their mindset? I want to know that too. Yeah.
So my daughter, who was 10 at the time, I asked her how has it been for her at school. And she goes, I was really scared in coming here, but it's been much easier than I anticipated. And I go to her, I'm like, I know, me too. It's been much easier than I thought as well, because of the expat community. And our friend essentially gave us the plug and play. Here's where you live. Here's, the WhatsApp groups you join. And then I go, well, what does that mean for other things that you think are going to be hard? She goes, well, I guess those other things that I think are going to be hard might be easier too. And to me, that was like, I was like, yes, that is like the life lesson I'm trying to instill on my kids by moving here. And the question of like, how did they adapt there? And when we got home, there's something that we learned called the W curve. It's like when you go to a new culture, you get that high. You're at the top of the W. You experience everything the first month or two. It's fantastic. Then about 3 months in, or somewhere around there, you get the low where you're like, oh, this is maybe kind of like I'm back in my routine already. It's not as exciting as I thought, or whatever that is. But then you get past that low and you're at the high, at the top of the W. But then you move back home. And when you move back home, you're back at the low. And so when we first moved back to the US, it was 2021. Still COVID was going strong. We weren't even, there was no vaccines in Spain or anything. And so it was really tough the first few months because life was frozen here for 2 years almost. But within a couple of months, all the community that we had before we left took us back in. And, we really felt lucky to have, to be in two amazing places.
Hey guys, Bobby Mascia here. I wanted to just take a second to thank everyone who's been tuning into Business Unchained since day one. This community, it means a lot to me. And I'm super excited to finally be able to share a big project that I've been working on for some time now, which is my book, Unchained, the raw truth about entrepreneurship, family business, and life balance. It's part memoir, part roadmap, and it just dives deep into my story, the experiences, the mistakes, and the lessons that have shaped how I think about building a business and life. Everything I talk about on this show is rooted in that journey, and in the book, I dig that much deeper. Unchained's available now. Grab your copy through the link or the show notes, or head over to bobbymascia.com. I appreciate you all, and I'm now taking you back into the show. Thank you.
Now, do you guys still talk about your travels? I mean, what are some of the things that I think, the one thing that I would have focused on was exactly the thing that you mentioned most, which was the adaptability and learning that being out of your comfort zone doesn't have to always be that uncomfortable. It's usually uncomfortable to get there. And then once you realize that you're there, you're like, it's not that bad.
Yeah, I think
the conversations with the kids and the family at the table, like how do you keep that fresh and alive and part of their mindset continuing forward and not coming back to and reverting back to the way they might have had been thinking about things prior to.
We made a commitment when we got back to the US was to continue this experiencing life through travel. And part of that commitment was like doing adventurous trips every year. And we've done some amazing 17-hour direct flight to New Zealand as an example. And then while we're there, 5 different flights from there to Australia and all these different things, where most people for like vacation will go to a beach and relax and sort of be with a group of family, which is great too. We made this decision to keep experiencing life through travel. And what to me is amazing, it's our kids who are the ones who are like excited and into it and helping us figure out where to go next. And to me, like the kids who do that, I believe will be the adults who will be like, why should we limit ourselves in anything that we want in life? And that to me was like the ultimate win. And that's how we transform because, when they were 10, we were not a traveling family at all. Like we didn't travel. We went to like the Bahamas. And so to become that as a family and to do these trips is 80% of the time you spend with your kids are before the age of 18.
Yeah.
Once that, it's 20%. And so those 2 years we were abroad, especially COVID time.
Way to bring down my energy.
No, but you're still there. You're still there though, right?
Is ticking.
So, but that's my point, right? So you're still there. You got 16, 14, and 10. I have my oldest are going to college next year. So that is a weird stage for me because I'm going to go from 3 kids to 1. And we're going to have 1 kid for 5 years in the household. And like, it's just so different. But that you don't have to move to Barcelona for 2 years. You don't have to do big trips, but you do have to figure out, in my opinion, with parents, what can you guys all do where you get out of your comfort zone together, where you're having fun, you're experiencing something and you're not in your routine. For me, travel is the easiest way to do that. It could literally be like, we're in the Northeast. You could go to the Finger Lakes. You can go to the Adirondacks. You can go to the Poconos, whatever works for you, but just do something together and do it regularly and give your kids some authority over that. To me, those are the memories they'll take to their kids and their families. And it's the cliche. It's not whether you can afford to travel, it's whether you can afford not to. I believe that. You look at the world and you see so much that you still want to experience and do, and the beauty with so much chaos going on. There's only so much we can control. So like travel is that opportunity to do that.
I would say my failure to be able to get my family to actually leave. The one thing out of my, constantly bringing it up with my kids is we decided that we were going to do something similar, and we're kind of like microdosing our experiences. So once a year we take an adventurous trip. And sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's hard. We did Switzerland and Austria and Germany, and last year we did Italy, and this year we're doing Greece, and we've done Turks and Caicos. We try to do like a chill one in between.
Yeah.
But this way they can get there, like let's go explore and see the world, and let's kind of decompress from reality and just get a little bit of a break that's kind of well deserved. And that's been a really good mix. And to your point, it doesn't always have to be taking a flight over to Europe and experiencing something that out of the normal. It just could be something, in our country, because we have such an expansive country with so many different places to go. And how do you even just get out of the normal routine of having things that are so convenient and putting yourself in the Finger Lakes where the options are limited, and the outdoor excursions are more so than where we are right now.
Look, screen time is a real challenge that we all face. And it does, when you're in as in the Finger Lakes or anywhere else where you can go outside and explore, it changes the story a little bit. So yeah. And by the way, this travel is one component of it. It's never too late to change your direction for any, like, even if you don't have a family and you're like not happy at your job, like this is the age old, you can go to books for the past hundreds of years. You can't stop helping people build that confidence in themselves, because a sale you need to repeat 15 times to get a sale. This you might have to repeat 1,000 times or million. You can't stop repeating it. And that's why the self-help industry exists. That's why these podcasts exist. That's why whoever is up there controlling this made me and you sharers and teachers and inspirers to help others do what they can do.
Exactly. So for your first book, which was The Fast Forward Mindset, How to Be Fearless and Focused to Accelerate Your Success. Did any element of writing that book, because that was written, it's 2019, but was that before or after you left?
Yeah.
What from that played into your decision to move, if anything?
Very directly correlated. So the Fast Forward Mindset is take stories of building Lawline in the first, 5 to 10 years. The first 5 years we went to 0 to 5 million, and it talks about all the mistakes I made and all the challenges. But I use a framework from the best business books, the best self-help books, and lots of different research on, I wanted to build a framework for myself and others, how to be more fearless and focused for the next 20 plus years so they can accelerate their success. And what I found in most of the books that I read, there's a lot of books that taught you how to get out of your comfort zone, but there's less books that really focused on, once you take that action, that impulse to do it, to how to stay out longer. So that's what the book focuses on both sides. And I created a framework and I did this. And so it was directly correlated to many things in my life that I did after the book. And one of them being moving to Barcelona. The goal is to eat my own dog food. 11 Suitcases is essentially the fast forward mindset applied to family. And it was us getting out of our comfort zone and going to set clear goals and a date and putting us out there. So I don't know if it would have or not would have happened, but I certainly used the framework that I wrote in the first book as we were preparing and moving abroad.
So can you share some of the framework in that book for some of the listeners that might be saying, yeah, you know what, I've got 2 books to read now, but which one's going to satiate which, thing that I'm looking for right now? Talk to us a little bit about the fast forward mindset.
Sure. So there's 3 steps, and I'll just give you a story for each. I can't obviously dive into the whole thing, but there's 3 steps. Step 1 is take action. And that is, I've interviewed hundreds and hundreds of top entrepreneurs. I had a podcast in 2006. Simon Sinek was one of my first interviews. And the number one thing they all told me was take action. And so I share this phrase, good thing, bad thing, who knows? Have you ever heard that phrase?
Not exactly like that, but the gist of it.
So we tend to label a situation negative, like 80% more than we label positive. And as soon as you label negative, you experience it as negative. And there's this fable of I don't want to go through it now, but it's a sun and a horse. And there's all these situations where you were going to label it bad, but then you realize they're not. And if you want to take more action in your life, and if you want to do more, you have to recognize that whatever the result, don't label it negative. Just say, oh, it didn't happen what I wanted to happen. Good thing, bad thing, who knows? Because my biggest challenge was making decisions, and still is. And if you realize there's no bad results, it's just different results. That allows you, it's reframing. So that's one of like 5 really great stories and tips that I go through from research. So there are some that are even better, but I'll stop there. So let's say you're able to take that action. So you get out of your comfort zone. For many people, as soon as they get out, within a short period of time, they want to just crawl back into their comfort zone. I left my job. That was ridiculous. I just moved to Barcelona. What the hell was I thinking? I started a podcast. I have no idea why I'm doing this. I wrote a book, all those different, all those things. Step 2 is nip fear in the bud. And NIP is an acronym. And I'm not alone. I will get through this and I'll play the part. And I'll just share that one of the things that I give like 6 to 8 different really great things. One of the things that's really been helpful for me is journaling. And because many times when you're not even sure why you're afraid after you get out of your comfort zone. And so I highly recommend, and this has transformed our experience in Barcelona, write down what you did every day. By the way, both of these books came from my journaling. If I didn't have my journaling, I wouldn't have been able to look back over the past 5 years and see the themes. And so by journaling, I'm able to figure out where my struggles are. And then there's other things, gratitude and negativity and other areas that really help. I give 5 different things for the moment that you're really struggling and your stress is high and you're feeling depressed to get you out of it right away. Mm-hmm. And those things are the age-old thing. So that's nip fear in the bud. And the final thing is find your focus. That's step 3. Because I can't tell you how many people say, oh, I want to move to Barcelona. Look what you just said. We want to do this someday. We want to do that. They don't do the simplest things, as we know. They don't put a date to it, or they don't have a clear intention. And there's one story that I share that sort of help build a rhythm. And have you ever heard the Jerry Seinfeld, how he learned how to make jokes story?
No, share it with me.
Okay. He was a young comedian and he asked this older comedian, he's like, I want to be like you. How do I do jokes? And he goes to him, instead of once a month spending a full day writing all your jokes, what you need to do is write 3 jokes a day, but do it every single day. And your goal will be not focusing on the 3 jokes. It's not breaking the chain of doing it every day. So you focus on not breaking the chain. And by doing that, you're going to create the consistency to be successful comedians. And those I started focusing on so many things. Once I get out of my comfort zone, what can I do not to break the chain to continue to do that with the podcast or the book? So those are the 3 stories that can give some more insight.
Yeah, it's funny because I find myself when I'm most productive is when I write down the top 3 things that I need to do today to make my day feel like it was actually successful. Yeah. And when I break that chain and I kind of go, it turns back into feeling very chaotic and all over the place. You know what I also like? I really like the thing that you said where, because somebody came up to me at my book launch, and the question was, I really want to start this business. I have the framework in which I want to do it. I have a really comfortable job. I don't want to leave the job yet, but I'm not sure really what the first steps are that I need to take in order to get this done. And you default for successful entrepreneurs, like us, is always going to be the Nike answer, right? Just do it. You just have to do it. It's taking that action.
Yeah.
But how many people take the action because they've been told so many times you just have to do it, and then they don't have the playbook to follow, or they haven't given thought to, all right, I did it. I'm here. I'm in Spain. Now what do I do? You're right.
And the reason I'm that person, I do that all the time, but there's a study that was done about creating really great artwork. And it had 2 groups. One group was, they had 30 days and they were told they can focus on each artwork to make each one the best. Mm-hmm. And so to do that in 30 days, they can do 3 pieces, they can do as many, but just make sure each one is the best. The other group was told to make 1 piece of art every single day for 30 days. That was their goal. Which group do you think had better artwork?
Well, after our conversation, it was the one that did it every day.
Right. Obviously, right? But it's shocking, though, because you would never think that. And so
you would think that the constant refinement of going over the same pieces would
right.
yield better results.
Same thing with going to Barcelona and getting somewhere. It's just keep doing stuff every day. And we have done we've done this thing called Type Coach, which is personality testing with our entire company and seeing who we are and what we do. And I've come to realize, again, this is not everybody's a sharer and a learner. Not everybody is this person who wants to be a visionary and take action. There are people who, that's why our company is so successful, because we have a lot of executors and a lot of process people. And so that taking action and just moving to Barcelona without a full understanding of what's going to happen, 90%, I don't know, whatever percent of people can't do that. I thrive in chaos. And one of the reasons I do is, and I just learned this recently, I, for years, had undiagnosed ADHD, and I recently got diagnosed. And the reason I ended up doing that is I have my own podcast and I was interviewing these lawyers who coach other lawyers with ADHD. And they taught me that the reason you have ADHD is you're chasing dopamine because you lack dopamine efficiency. And I'm like, oh, that's why I need to do so many different things always because of that chasing the high. Some people go, of course, alcohol and other things. I do this. With that said, what people don't hear is I have the overwhelm where I feel like I'm drowning and I feel I can't focus. I'm just like, so those are the both sides of it. But by understanding that, I was able to give myself a lot more grace and realize there's nothing wrong with me, that I want to do a lot of different things. And that's why I literally wrote this book to help me get through that high and give me more structure.
So do you find yourself actually following your structure, or are there moments in time where you really have to hit that hard reset? Because I know for me, I'm the same exact way, except I get the processes in place and then all of a sudden things fall off the rails and feel like I'm drowning and I've got 100 different things going on and I'm trying to orchestrate everything. And then I have to hit the hard reset button and I have to take a long, hard look at myself in the mirror and go, you've been here before. This is how you've gotten out.
Yeah.
This is how you felt better. Why did you get away from it? Just go back to it and put yourself back together.
I used to be like, what's wrong with me? I'm not even following the structure that I wrote. But like, it's so common, right? It's like, there's some great books that I've read that the authors are like, if I followed everything that I said, I wouldn't be who I was, right? With that said, do you know what Trello is? Do you know,
Trello?
or not Trello, like the project management system?
Yeah.
Like we have a company and that's what hums in our company. I pretty much told people in my company, I'm never looking at Trello because it's just not for me. It's not who I am. It's not where I want to be. And so if you want to tell me what's going on, you need to we need to have a conversation. We need to do this. And I used to like try to catch up. No, the reason I share this, I used to like, they would get upset that I'm doing that. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm going to get to it tomorrow. I'm going to get to it later. And I'm like, no, that is not who I am. That is not where my zone of genius is. We have a company. We don't need me there. They don't need me there. And so now people just get like, if it's in Trello, Dave's not seeing it. So we have to communicate with him other way. So I've adapted to.
I have the big smile on my face because I have the same thing. We have Selenica and it's one of those things where I had all the best intents and, I was going to be in it and I was going to help to manage my life. And I finally turned around to my team and I was like, listen, I know that I'm not supposed to tell you guys to do something that I'm not willing to do myself. And I typically live my life that way. But for this, it's not going to happen. And to your point, not my zone of genius. And the actual relief from the team where they're like, all right, so we don't have to keep putting this shit in there for you to reflect back to. Like we could just go right directly to you. I'm like, yeah, but just don't do that with each other. use it for the rest of the business. So just for me, I'm the exception to the rule.
Yeah. And we have such a great team and we're a very process oriented company. So it works really well. And it's all there still because they need it for each other. But yeah, that's when I gave myself some grace about things that I have a lot of ideas. And so people are like, this another one of Dave's ideas or this the idea. And I started just being like, look, guys, but with that, I do use more of a structure. I do give more of a process because we need to have some filter because you can't run a business based on the ideas of the entrepreneur in charge. No. And there has to be data, there has to be a filter, there has to be a structure, because then that's not a good way to grow a business either. With that said, every so often, you just got to be like, because this is where I'm at with some things, I will have regrets if we don't do X, Y, and Z in my business. I don't care what the data says. Mm-hmm. This is what we're doing. And if it doesn't work, I'm fine with picking ourselves up and fixing it from there. But I don't want to look back in 5 years and know we didn't give this a go. So I think it goes both ways sometimes.
I feel like part of us we're brothers that were separated at birth. So I'm looking forward to getting out to Brooklyn or having you come over here or, doing something together.
I wish you were a matchmaker, man.
What's in your sights right now? You're finished with this book. You have the business. You're back in Brooklyn. What are some of the things that you're looking at over the next 12 to 18 months that have you ramped up and ready to go?
On a family level, certainly my kids going to college, 2 at one time.
Where are they going?
So my daughter's going to Wake Forest. My son will find out in a couple of weeks.
Wow.
He's shooting for the fences, and he's really, both my kids are amazing. I am in denial because I don't know. That signifies as the next stage of life. And one kid, it's going to get much quieter and more, dare I say, boring at the household. So I know it's important.
Your youngest is in 8th grade right now?
He's in 7th. He's in 7th. Yeah.
Okay.
He's awesome too. And so like, I know, I'm like, Kelly, let's move abroad again. But I don't think that's going to happen. But I know I need to keep myself busy. And so from a company standpoint, we're the leader in our field, and we're just trying to figure out how to make some really interesting, cool pivots or bets to move forward. But that's a much harder thing because we're a mature company. I'm already working on my 3rd book. From my pod, I don't know if you've ever thought about doing this. I've interviewed some of the best thought leaders in law and legal tech. And through AI, you're able to compile all those interviews and get all the basic things in there. There is some great stuff on there. So it's going to be geared towards lawyers and law. And what some of the themes that I've seen there, I'm going to turn that into a book and also some courses from that. One of the things I've always wanted to do, and I'm not sure if I really want to do it or not, and I'm curious where you land here. I love public speaking. When I do it, I'm great at it. I've been trained at it. I can always improve. I've spoken several times since the book came out. And on one hand, I'm like, I did it and it was great. And then everyone started coming up to me afterwards. And I was like, oh, this is so awesome. But then in other words, I'm like, is this awesome? And also, I don't know if I want to be traveling a ton, but there's something inside of me that's saying you're not going to hit where you want to be unless you're not speaking at least 20 to 50 times or 30 times a year at different places. But I can't pull the trigger to make that happen on a bigger scale. So I'm curious if that's something that you're interested in doing, where you're at with that.
So I was in the same spot about a year and a half ago. And this was right about when I started to write the book. And I started thinking about public speaking. And I had interviewed somebody on my podcast and they were like, listen, you've got to go to Heroic Public Speaking. It's in New Jersey. It's down in Lambertville. But, they set up these cohorts and people come from all over the country. And Michael and Amy Porter, former actors, and they put together this program and they're phenomenal public speakers. And you need to go do this. So I said, all right. And he goes, listen, they have to do a 2-day workshop. You go down there. It's gratis. Obviously, they're trying to sell you the program when you get down there, but you get a lot of good stuff for free. And, just go check it out. So I went down there and I fell in love with it because, to your point, done public speaking. I have no problem grabbing a microphone and having a conversation. And I've had people come up to me and say, so glad that you were able to share. And it is meaningful when you have something that you want to share and you've got an audience that's going to listen to it and take some of it and actually do something with it. So I get down to Heroic Public Speaking and the separation between actually writing the speech, which to me, I didn't really have so much of an issue with. It was an interesting format. The second part was really what I signed up for, which was the performance. And because these people who were down there and actually delivering speeches during this whole thing, I'm like, that's next level. That's not even like, puts most professional speakers to shame. Like that's next level. And I went through the process. And as I went through the process on the performing side, I realized that knowing how to write a speech and performing it are two different things. You actually have to write your speech to your performance. So that's why I thought that the sequential write the speech and perform and then go rewrite it 25 times to fit, all of the different techniques that they were teaching. But I think I don't know if 20 to 50 times a year is in my
maybe
calendar.
Once a month, right? Yeah, maybe I go too extreme. But you didn't even get to the hard part. The hard part is actually getting the speaking gigs. So I'm so glad to hear that. Maybe this is something I'm interested in. So you do this, you rewrite your speech, you get this angle. Where are you at now?
So their whole concept is getting the stage side referrals, right? So if you're delivering this impactful speech in a way that's performance oriented, and you have everybody who's like, oh my God, there's going to be somebody in there or multiple people in there that are going to say, hey, I have another event. I need you to talk at this. So the idea is not to necessarily have, because my whole thing is
what is it that you brought up imposter syndrome. What is it that I have to say that's so different from what everyone else is saying?
I'm a middle-aged white man. What do I have to say that's different? Like that's how I feel. Like I'm like, what's special about me? Totally.
And a lot of it isn't necessarily that you have something unique. It's how you actually deliver that message.
Totally.
And the way that people actually receive the message.
Nobody has anything unique.
Yeah. I mean, listen, we've all heard it. It's just that there's some nuances and there's some ways that, the little tweaks and all of a sudden it resonates. And, I'll bring it back to husband and wife. How many times, you say something or your wife says something to you, and then all of a sudden you hear it or she hears it from a friend. And then it's like, I just heard so-and-so just said this. I've been saying that for a decade. 100%. Well, it didn't resonate when you said it because I'm tired of listening to you. But I think that it's important. I think that the hardest part, yes, is getting the gigs, but I would almost say the hardest part is just getting up there and actually delivering a really good speech and a really good message. And I think just like business, man, you built your business off of building your reputation, and it takes a little bit of a few turns to build that muscle memory to be able to get up there and deliver that repeatable speech every time.
For sure.
But once you do, if you've got the message and people are wanting to listen to it, the Field of Dreams approach, if you build it, they will come. You just have to have some faith in what it is that you're offering.
And that's the key for me. And because I've done a lot of podcasts, I've done a lot of TV interviews for the 11 Suitcases. You have to be able to relive it to some degree every time you give the speech. Because if I just feel like I'm going through the motions and I'm just saying the same thing,
it's tough, especially for our personalities.
Yeah,
there's some people who can live in that and just continue. For us, it's all about adaptability and making a little bit of a change to feel like we're staying on the edge and we're staying a little sharp. What's that?
So getting that dopamine.
Yeah, getting the dopamine. Exactly. It's a little hit, chasing the dragon. Listen, man, I know your time is valuable. Where do people find you, and which book should they buy first?
I would say buy 11 Suitcases first. If you want to read a story of an adventure and go the ups and downs. If you're trying to build a business and you're trying to just go through your own self-help sort of journey, the fast forward mindset will get right down to it and it will tell you mistake after mistake of, good thing, bad thing, or no that we've done, but also the best insights from the best self-help books all put in one book. So those are the two things there. 11suitcases.com. You can find both books actually. And on LinkedIn, I post every day. So I'd love anyone to connect with me.
I love it. Well, I'm coming into New York. We're going to meet for coffee. I'm going to bring a copy of my book. You're going to bring a copy of yours.
I'm going to mail you a copy of mine. How about that?
No. I want to hand it to you. I want to come and see you over in the BK.
I'll meet you in the city.
Perfect. We can do that.
Perfect. Hey guys, Bobby Mascia here. If you've been listening to Business Unchained, you know we're creating conversations that matter. Real stories and strategies to help business owners and entrepreneurs win. We've been putting a lot of work into these episodes in our online community, bringing you content that can actually move the needle for your business. And we're everywhere. Instagram, LinkedIn, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon, TikTok, you name it, we're there. So look, if you're getting value from what we're doing, please follow, subscribe, and drop a quick comment or like. It really helps us grow this thing. Just search Business Unchained and you'll find us everywhere.